Alright, so we're going to do the rear upper control arms and the stabilizer links. We're going to keep the lowers in because the bushings are not toast, and I'm pretty sure those lower control arms are super expensive, and if they're not necessary, why do anything with them? So here you can see these are just absolutely dead. This one moves like this. I'm sure that bushing on the inside is toast as well. So we're going to replace the nut on this, but we're going to mark the bolt to the subframe. Oh, that was a horrible mark. What? Mark like that, so we know where that's going to go back roughly. These are going to have to be torqued under load. The side that goes to the spindle just has a torque spec, but these need to be torqued under load, which is important. So we're going to mark also, let's say the 12 o'clock point here. So I'm just going to go across this one, and then we'll mark it to here. We're going to try to find a reference point on the new arm so we can at least get it roughly where it needs to be before we torque it, because I just don't want it drooping when we go to put it in the car. So this one's going to be a little bit more complicated just because it has an eccentric, so we'll show you that with a little bit more detail. This is just a bolt with a nut. It's an 18, so I'm going to show you guys how to do that one first. So I'm going to put ratchet back here. And I try to loosen nuts as often as possible, not bolts. It's really how you should be doing it, but see right there, it fell. Okay, messed up the paint. Okay, so that's this guy. And honestly, the inner bushing did not look too bad. Normally the inner bushings aren't toast. I was surprised even that one was toast, but there definitely was some suspension issues going on there. So I'm going to now grab that new arm, which should be this one. We just want a Unforder. It is OE, so no issues there. I'll rip it open like a savage. Unforder usually includes new hardware with it, so normally you'd be replacing these nuts. In this case, they supply them. So shout out Unforder for doing that. Shout out Justin for picking that up off the floor. All right, and now we're going to try to make a reference mark. One of those nuts is obviously larger than the other. So if I can find any point to reference this from, it'd probably be that there's another seam here. So if I mark that seam going directly across, I can pick that seam up right here and it hits my 12 o'clock. So that actually works perfect. So you want that seam at 6 o'clock. So if I go and compare this one, it's just gonna go right here. And then I know this is my 12, and I want that lined up with that mark there, which is like that. So easy peasy, not a big deal. So I'm gonna take the bolt, this guy through, get my new nut, put it on. I'm gonna go and get that reference mark, cruising across the whole top here, just so I can make sure I line it up as best I can. And with this one, we're just gonna get it tight enough coming like into it. So, first off, that was marked there. So we're just gonna leave this here. I'm gonna turn this. That reference mark on the bolt really didn't do much of anything for me, except let me know where to keep it. But if you really think about it, it really doesn't do anything. So that bolt can be in any position. I just wanted it so that when I torque it to load or under load, I had an idea, but that would have required me also torquing the nut, or marking the nut, and the nut got replaced. So that's a completely useless marking. So also, the old bushing is going to be under a lot of fatigue. So this whole marking that I did, even though I'm lining it up exactly where the old one was, since the old one experienced, you know, years of service, it's not under the same pressure anymore. So it might be a completely different area. So I'm just going to get these as like decently hand tight as I can, because I know they're good. So like right there, it's like got play enough for me to move the bushing. But once it's under load, before I torque this, I'm gonna crack that nut free, just a little bit, just so it gets a little bit of play. Because if I torque it right now, I'm gonna be torquing this bushing, and if I apply pressure and torque this bushing under load, it's always gonna be under load. So you want to loosen it up when it's in the car and the car is on the ground, so then the bushing can settle to straight, and then under normal driving conditions, the bushing isn't taking any pressure. Because if I preload this and then now it hits a bump, that's going to prematurely wear out that bushing. So if it's sitting just like this inside the car, and right here is its natural position, then it's only going to work when it needs to. So a lot of people mess this up, you know, using high horse jacks or whatever they may be using, you know, just a floor jack or whatever, to preload them. But if you preload them in the wrong position, it's wrong. So I kind of am a little crazy about it. I'm pretty adamant about making sure that you just do them properly, which is just under load. So we put the car down physically on something, loosen these nuts and torque them up, which we'll show you in a bit, but we'll just put that on there for now. So that's one done. You have this bracket here, which actually should kind of unhinge off of this, hopefully. I think it will. Okay, cool. We're just gonna take that guy, put it where it needs to go on the new one, and clip it in place if it's willing to. I think this one's actually missing the clip, so it's just gonna be this one that holds it. So like that. Yeah, this one would have been a little bit longer, but it's alright, it holds the sensor, and what I can also do is just maybe throw a zip tie or something through there. But it's pretty hard to even get that one on, so I think we're okay. If I was a little smarter, I probably would have done this sway bar end link on camera in the position, or with this removed, but we'll do it after. Alright, so now here's our eccentrics. So I'm going to show where these kind of sit right now, and we're going to go very detailed and put these exactly where they are, because this physically moves in and out and gives you your rear wheel alignment. So very important to put these back, even if it's going to need an alignment regardless. This car needs to, you know, drive down the street without, you know, chirping tire or having all sorts of issues. So we're going to mark this all the same way we did the other one, where we know that this is our top point. There's a little slit right here, so we'll actually line it up to that one. I'll just remove that. So you have a casting slit right here, goes here, another casting slit there, and there. Now, if you get closer over here, you're gonna notice that the eccentric sits at, I would say, 7 o'clock. So we're talking like here. So I'm gonna mark that, and then on top, the washer itself sits like, okay. So what I'm gonna do is go with the paint, oh, that was a little too much. Go with the paint marker and go over both the eccentric and the subframe where it sits. And then we're gonna let this dry completely. So it's definitely where it needs to be. And then when you go to put this back on and torque it, if you see any parts where there should be paint and you can see through to the subframe and there isn't paint, you know it's not in the right spot. So it's just the easiest way to do it. And I'm gonna do it on both sides. So On the back side, there's an eccentric bolt which just sits in one spot. So you're gonna do the same thing back there. I'm gonna have Justin flip over there and we're gonna show you. All right, so since we're gonna have to wait for this to dry, we're gonna do it over here, and then I'm actually gonna go move to the other side. This is the driver. So we're gonna move to the passenger and make sure that's done the same way. Okay, so I'm gonna seal that like that, go around there completely like that, and like up here like that, and then you just gotta put it right back to where it is. And I'm even gonna mark this 12 o'clock spot here, and then for there, it doesn't really matter. All right, I'm gonna go to the other side. We're gonna let it dry, and then honestly, yeah, we'll just do that and get back to you. All right, so our paint dried a little bit, so we're going to release. Oh, I want to just make sure that that eccentric doesn't start turning. So basically the way you do that is by not turning the bolt side. The bolt side is what's going to actually push this out as we remove it. So I can see that it moved this much, so we're going to move it back. And if I was letting this do it, it would be coming in, pulling out as it is going. So remove our nut, which is gonna be changed. Not that paint on that didn't matter. But then we have our eccentric, which we're definitely gonna put on the exact same way we took it off. This is an important one. This is a eccentric washer on the back. And in this case, it does not want to come off that well. Okay, so I'm gonna put that like this because that's the way it's gonna go back on. I'm gonna pull the bolt out, and then there's our control. So we're going to, again, we have this marking here. That's how it's sat. I think unfortunately these are flipped on our other ones, so we're just gonna take that marking again and bring it there. They press the bushings in just 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock on this application. So we're just gonna swap that out and get back to it. All right, so I just took the cover off here and I put a paint marker there where that 12 o'clock point is in reference to that 6 o'clock point. So we're just gonna slide this guy in, match up that 12 o'clock. We're gonna match up our paint markings. So you have this one that lines up with the 12 o'clock, and then down there I have this one that I put out like that. And we're gonna get that into place like so. And then again, if you move this, you're gonna see it not make any sense anymore. So like around there is where we need to be for that. And then we did the same thing on this end. So we'll fix that in a second. I need to get the eccentric on. Okay, so the eccentric only goes on, the washer only goes on one way. So if you're fixed correctly on this point, so we're gonna put this on again where we had it, right there. And then you push this side on. It's got little markings on it originally, so that's a good reference point as well. So you just put that on. Make sure it's lined up perfectly, which right about there we are. And then we're gonna take the nut and put that back on. Oh, actually we're gonna use a new nut for this. Just gonna put one on here. This should be the same for both sides. So we are gonna replace this one. And now we're looking at a lot of markings here. So we definitely wanna make sure all our markings are lined up, which here we are. This one back here is kind of forced to be lined up if all your other ones are right, just because of the way it sits. The bolt itself has slits in it, and that washer only fits on one direction. I'll show you guys a little better on the other side. You can see right now it's starting to spin. So we're gonna get it, again, tight to where I can almost move the, or I almost can't move the control arm, and then we're gonna finish it up from there. So just Let's get the 16. Beginning to line up. Okay, so you use this one, like I said before, to adjust the alignment. And then the other one is to actually tighten. Make sure your lines match up, which in this case they do. Move this one back this way a little bit. And then the control arm up. And then tighten. Move this a little bit this way. Like that. Move this one down just a bit, so I'm going to loosen it just a little bit. Like right there. Perfect. So I'm just, again, watching all these lines, making sure everything looks good, which it does. So the alignment shouldn't be any different other than any issues with the bushing, and we should be all set just like that. And that's perfectly lined up. Right, I'm gonna give this one extra turn just to make sure it's perfectly right. Perfect. Cool. So now we're gonna go do the same thing on the other side. In terms of both of these. Actually, before I do that, we're gonna do this little sway bar end link because we didn't do it yet. So let me get the proper tools to do that end link. All right, so what we're gonna do to get the end link out is just take a 16mm, find the two flat spots on the inside, hold it just like that, take another one on the outside, and here I'm tightening it, so I'm gonna loosen it. And that's it. So, just gonna loosen it. We have replacement hardware for this as well. So, just gonna get rid of that. We have two new here. These are also Lemfurter. And it looks like one of these has a washer and a nut, so that's going to be the side that actually goes to the sway bar, and then the one with the washer built onto the nut is going to be the one that goes to the end link down here. So what I'm going to do is take that washer nut, and we're just going to put that to the side right now. And grab this one here. You can see here, I don't know if you guys can see, this one's significantly bigger. It has the washer bolt on. Quick instructions, usually this is pretty straightforward, just tells you what not to do, what to do, and saying torque it, and to torque it under load. So we will do that. So take this out. Oh, actually the washer goes on the bottom. This just fell out. So if you guys were wondering. Here it looks like the Lemfurter sits on this side. That's why we took it out. Take that washer, put it here, put it back in. You can see at this point we're actually interfering with the upper control arm. So something is going to have to move around. So that's why we torque things that are load, just so things don't interfere. Also, what we can do just one more time is just double check that they're the exact same part. This way just a little bit is where it was sitting. Get the 16 sitting just about like here. And Lemfurter tends to sometimes upsize. In this case we didn't have an issue, but sometimes they'll just like randomly change the 16 to a 17, I noticed. So just be mindful of that whenever you're using their stuff. Even though they're original equipment, sometimes they just switch up. I'm gonna leave that alone like that. We can torque into spec on car. I'm just gonna put that extra nut on the back. I'm gonna get rid of all this hardware so it doesn't confuse me. And we're gonna go over to the other side and do the exact same thing we did with those 3 control arms over there. All right, so we're gonna do the easier one first. So again, you have our 12 o'clock point on that bushing here. And then I'm just gonna line that up with our subframe. And then just to make my life a little easier, we'll mark it here. 18 millimeter to get this guy off. I'm gonna pull this little bracket off first. Get that out of the way. Again, loosen the nut. 2 18s. I'm gonna do it a little differently this time. I'm gonna do the sway bar end link while I have this off. It just makes way more sense. So you guys already saw the individual versions of those. Nut gets replaced. So get this guy out. We're gonna quickly get this end link done. So it's gonna get a 16 and put it down here. So it looks like with this sits 12 o'clock too. So the wrench doesn't go straight, obviously. So right there is where you wanna release it. So I might go back and see if the other side is like that, just a minute. But the best way to go about it is just to take the nuts off without really trying to move the wrench, but it doesn't always work out that way. That inside should be kind of fixed unless you screw with it, because when it's bolted onto the lower control arm, the ball joint is what moves. This is going to sit exactly where you bolted it up forever. I'll grab the new one. Killing two birds with one stone over here. And get that washer out and that big nut. Okay, so washer, keeping it relatively 12 o'clock, like there. So when it starts to get tighter, I'm gonna start paying more attention to where that 12 o'clock is on this. So around here. So like that, grab our new control arm. Yeah, the bushings were just opposite, only on the other one. This one's actually correct. So this is easy. I'm just gonna line it up right on the center line there. Way easier on this one. That bushing was pressed in with the 12 o'clock being the same as the other one. The other side was pressed in at 6 o'clock, so I had to actually line it up myself. Just to make it more apparent on camera. So that's my 12 o'clock, that's my 12 o'clock, and that's just where the bushing is separated, and it matches identically to the old one. Switch to 18s again. And now those two are done. We're gonna switch, I can take this off and put this on temporarily. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this nut here on the sway bar end link. So everything's in the same spot. We do have everything already paint marked on our eccentric down here, so I'm gonna switch back to the 16. And again, we're gonna hold the bolt. Actually, we're good there with that marking. So I'm gonna hold that there. Actually, what I can do is maybe put this over this and that'll hold it for me. Like that. And take the paint marker and just do one more marking on that eccentric washer right there to say that that lines up with that. This nut can go away. This eccentric washer is going to be put down like this, so it goes exactly the same way it goes on. And you can see how an eccentric works. You have these two little cuts right there. So this can only go on one way. So these two cuts in the thread. So basically the bolt is threaded and then two lines get cut into it. Sits against this piece, and now as you tighten or loosen one, it's only able to move in and out. So that's how you get an alignment if you didn't know. Okay, so like right there is where it's gonna sit. So what I'll do is I'm gonna take the bolt out we're going to put that down. You can see the two eccentrics stand up as opposed to down, so we're just going to put that down in the same orientation. Transfer our marking onto our new control arm, which I'm going to grab. Okay, so this works opposite of the other one. So this one was pressed in at 12 o'clock as well. The old one wasn't. So I transferred the marking on the old one. But on this one, we can just go right to 12. I'm gonna put the eccentric through. Put it right back to where it's supposed to be, which is right there. Get the eccentric washer right back onto where it's supposed to be, which is right there. And then I'm gonna grab one of these and put it on the outside first, just so that's done. And I have that hardware there for when I need it. We have the spindles completely off the car, so that's why I can afford to put these on without them screwing me up. Now this is gonna go here. Make sure that 12 is with that 12. And once it sits flush against the car, against the subframe, it's not gonna move at all. So, tightening. Okay. So like right there is where it's gonna start tightening. And again, just for the camera, since we do have that 12 o'clock mark in the cast of the bushing race, we're just gonna line you guys up visually. That. And that's what we're going for. So I'm gonna hold that with my body, something like there. Oh, here's how an eccentric works. So now you can see as I turn this bolt, you see how that comes in and out? And that's what actually gives you your toe in the rear. These move together to kind of wobble in and out. So we're just presetting it back to our old alignment, which again, only works one way. Bring that there, hold this here. Okay, there we go. That's how to do the control arms and the sway bar end links in the rear, at least the uppers. So we're gonna leave it like that. Obviously we're gonna go back and torque this all under load. I'm gonna clean up. Next thing we're gonna do is put our poly inserts in. I'm gonna flip this around because it's facing the wrong direction. We're gonna bring our differential over, get the differential put on our floor jack, put this on our differential, and then jack it all back up into the car. So we're actually ready to put this thing in. I almost forgot one more thing. You gotta just put this on. So this guy sits just like this. This is definitely something you don't want to forget because it holds some stuff in place for you. But it can be a pain to get on. Okay. And that's it. All right, so we're just gonna do all the things we just said we were gonna do. All right, so since our bushings were actually in good shape, we opted out of doing the poly bushings. First of all, the parts got screwed up. We didn't end up with a full set of poly bushings. We ended up with poly diff bushings. So that kind of made us look at each other and be like, what's the next best solution? So instead of going through the whole effort of pushing these out when they're not in bad condition at all to begin with, we went with the PowerFlex inserts. So you do need two different kits, which is kind of weird that they're sold like that, because I don't know what the application of doing one set, like what the benefit of that would be. So maybe there is, I just don't know. But they're sold as rear subframe, rear mount inserts. So these are gonna be those two back there. And these are sold as rear subframe mounting front inserts. So 2 per car, 2 per pack. So I'm pretty sure, from what I can tell, that like the top of this one and the top of this one are the same. So the tops are probably identical and the bottoms I think are different. So we're gonna get them in. You can obviously see that this is gonna be the top, it sits right in there. The cool thing about it is, I don't know if you guys saw when we, depending on what video and how this all gets chewed up, there was 2 little rubber plates that sat over the front bushings in between the subframe and the chassis itself. And those bushings got absolutely like mutilated. So if you hear like knocking and stuff going on back in the rear of your e39, 540, M5, I think maybe even just M5 has that, that rubber plate, so maybe not 540, I wouldn't know. So that that rubber bushing that goes over the bushing is just like a pancake looking bushing, just gets beaten after time, and in the end it's just you know, gone. So this does replace it. You have no use for it, because why would I put another bushing over this being another bushing, you know? So I think I'm just gonna do the tops right now. So I'll have Justin bring the camera over just to show you. It's really simple, they just slide in, but it fills that void in the bushing where you do have the ability for the bushing to move this way and this way, because the bushing is casted stock this way and this way. So now we're gonna fill that, and now it's gonna be almost solid, if that makes sense. But what it does, which is really cool, is it does give you a nice solid mounting point between the chassis and the rear subframe, which I think is more valuable than being the insert itself. So we'll bring the camera over to this angle, and we'll just throw the top two in, and then repeat the same thing on the other side, to show you what it looks like. All right, so they kind of come like factory lubricated. It's not like a crazy amount of lubrication, but it slides right in. And as you can see, it does give you that separation, which is far more than the stock one does. So that's really cool there. I think all the tops are the same, but again, we're just gonna keep them within the kit. So we're gonna put this one here. Now on this side, go like that. And down here, we're gonna go like this. So my idea is that these might fall out if I do the bottoms, but the bottoms are longer and the tops went in kind of easy. So what I'm probably gonna do is just flip this while we're here. And we'll do these. Now we're also gonna, since we flipped that, we're gonna flip these boxes. So this should say rear back here. Yeah, rear, rear. So now we're gonna take these guys and slide them here. This one's gonna go into here. And the way you know that these fit, I think, is by the little insert there. But again, they're marked by the box. So that one was, again, rear front, and we know it's front because it's got that snub mount there. I think it's gonna draw in the rest of the way when we put it in with a bolt, but I kind of want it to just feel a little bit better than that. This one. I guess that's all it's gonna do. Okay, so let's put it back to the way it first was. Again, these can be lubricated anywhere that they make contact with anything, but I don't really think it matters. So now we're gonna go back to this side, do it over here. So the rubber in the bushing might not be completely casted perfectly, and then the rubber or the polyurethane here might also not be perfect cast. So that's might be why they just don't go in phenomenally. But you know, it's still gonna be doing its job, and with the yeah, this one went in way better than the other one. So it's just probably just something wrong with that bushing. So now we have rear. They go under a lot of torque, so I'm not really worried about it. Again, verifying this is rear. We're just gonna slide this guy in like that, and that's it. So I'm gonna have Justin kind of come over and show you guys what this all looks like. And then actually I'm gonna flip it back over so you can see it finished the correct way it gets mounted. Yeah, that's a fully, you know, actually not fully, because we didn't do lower control arms, and then we did not do the subframe bushings themselves, but this is, for our application, a rebuilt rear subframe for the E39 M5.